Shadows of yesterday. The air in the small town of Haven would always felt thick with history, as though the stories of its past still lingered in the present. Ivy-laden buildings stood as silent witnesses to secrets long buried, their cracked walls hiding whispers of times gone by. On a particularly gray afternoon, Emma Caldwell returned to the town she had sworn never to visit again. Emma had grown up in Haven Wood, a town where everyone knew everyone, or so they thought. But her family's sudden departure years ago had raised questions, and no one ever got answers. Now, with her mother's passing, Emma had no choice but to revisit the shadows of yesterday. The old family house, a Victorian relic at the edge of town, was hers to claim, along with everything hidden within its walls. The house loomed large and foreboding, its faded paint peeling in strips, revealing the wood beneath. The windows, clouded with years of grime, gave the appearance of unseeing eyes. As Emma stepped through the creaking door, a cold draft met her like an unwelcome embrace. She shivered, pulling her coat tighter around her. Inside, the air smelled of dust and something faintly metallic. The furniture was covered in white sheets, making the space feel ghostly. Emma's footsteps echoed as she moved through the hallway, her eyes scanning the familiar yet alien surroundings. Memories of laughter and warmth clashed with the oppressive silence now blanketing the house. Her task was simple: clear out the house and prepare it for sale. But as Emma sifted through old belongings, she began to sense an odd pattern. Certain items seemed out of place, like her father's favorite leather chair, now angled oddly toward the fireplace, or a stack of old journals left in plain view. She recognized them immediately, her grandfather's journals, once forbidden to her. Emma hesitated before picking one up. The leather cover was worn, the pages brittle. She opened it cautiously, the scent of aged paper filling her nose. The entries began innocuously enough: accounts of daily life, observations about the weather, and musings about the state of the world. But as she flipped further, the tone shifted. Her grandfather had written about strange occurrences, shadows that moved without a source, whispers that came from empty rooms, and dreams that felt like memories. One entry stood out. The date was smudged, but the words were clear. Asterisk, I fear what I have uncovered. The artifact is not of this world, and its presence grows heavier each day. I see its influence in the eyes of those around me. If anyone finds this, beware the box in the attic. It must never be opened. Asterisk, Emma's breath hitched. Her grandfather had always been a rational man, a scientist with little patience for superstition. For him to write something so cryptic was unsettling. Her eyes darted to the ceiling. The attic. The pull was irresistible. Grabbing a flashlight from the kitchen drawer, Emma climbed the creaking staircase to the second floor and found the attic hatch. It took some effort to pull it down, the ladder unfolding with a groan. She climbed into the dim space, her flashlight cutting through the thick darkness. The attic was filled with the detritus of generations: old trunks, broken furniture, and boxes labeled in her grandfather's neat handwriting. In the far corner, partially obscured by an old quilt, was a small wooden box. It was unassuming, with no markings to suggest its importance. Yet as Emma approached, an inexplicable weight settled on her chest. Her hands trembled as she reached for it. The wood felt unnaturally cold against her skin. A lock secured the lid, but it looked fragile, as though it might crumble with enough force. Emma hesitated, her grandfather's warning echoing in her mind. But curiosity, that insatiable force, urged her on. She found an old crowbar nearby and pried the lock open. The lid creaked as it lifted, revealing a velvet-lined interior. Inside was a small, intricately carved stone, glowing faintly with an otherworldly light. The glow pulsed, almost as though the stone were alive. Emma stared, transfixed, as whispers filled the air around her. At first, they were indistinct, like a breeze brushing against her ears. But soon, they became clearer. Emma! She stumbled back, dropping the flashlight. The beam flickered wildly, casting unsettling shadows that seemed to dance across the attic walls. Heart pounding, Emma grabbed the flashlight and scrambled down the ladder, slamming the attic hatch shut behind her. She leaned against the wall, her breaths ragged. What had she unleashed? Over the next few days, Emma's world began to unravel. Shadows moved in her peripheral vision, and the whispers followed her wherever she went. They grew louder at night, transforming into voices that spoke in languages she couldn't understand. Sleep became impossible, her dreams consumed by visions of places she had never been and events she couldn't comprehend. Desperate for answers, Emma revisited her grandfather's journals. One entry caught her eye. Asterisk, the stone is not merely an object. It is a key. It unlocks the barrier between our world and another, one that exists in tandem with ours. The shadows are not figments of imagination. They are the inhabitants of that realm, drawn to the stone's power. Asterisk, Emma's hands shook as she read the final line. Asterisk, if the stone is disturbed, there is no turning back. Asterisk, determined to set things right, Emma sought out the town's historian, an elderly woman named Margaret who had known her family for decades. Margaret's face paled when Emma described the stone. Your grandfather warned me about this, Margaret said, her voice trembling. He said it had to remain hidden, that its power was too great. If the barrier weakens, those shadows will not stay confined to their realm. Emma's stomach churned. What can I do? Margaret handed her a weathered book, its pages filled with symbols and incantations. There may be a way to seal it again, but it requires a sacrifice. The stone must be returned to its origin, and it will demand a price. Emma's heart sank. She didn't know what that price would be, but she had no choice. That night, armed with the book and the stone, she ventured into the woods where her grandfather had first found the artifact. The shadows followed, their whispers now a deafening chorus. At the forest's heart, Emma found the place described in the book, a circle of ancient stones, overgrown with moss. She placed the glowing artifact in the center and began reciting the incantation. The air grew colder, and the shadows coalesced around her, their forms becoming almost human. As she finished the ritual, a blinding light erupted from the stone. The shadows screamed, their forms dissolving into nothingness. Emma felt a searing pain in her chest, as though something were being ripped from her. When the light faded, the stone was gone, and the forest was silent. Emma stumbled back to the house, her body heavy with exhaustion. The whispers were gone, and the shadows no longer moved. But something within her felt missing, as though she had left a part of herself behind in the ritual. The next morning, as sunlight streamed through the windows, Havenwood felt different. Lighter. The oppressive air that had clung to the town for so long had lifted. Emma knew she had done what was necessary, but the cost would haunt her forever. The shadows of yesterday were gone, but their memory would remain, etched into the fabric of her soul. Learn more stories, subscribe this channel. Thank you.